We're gonna dive deep into what determines a great strength and conditioning coach, and we're gonna start right now. Strength and conditioning coaches are abundant currently, right? They're all over the place. They're all over social media. They're all telling you exactly what you should be doing or trying to tell you what you should be doing in your gym. You should be doing these crazy banded exercises. You should be doing isometric, eccentric, contraction, concentric things that don't make sense and all these other wacky, crazy stuff to try and improve your sports performance, right? That's essentially what we're looking for. We're looking for coaches that are going to enhance your ability to compete in given sports or a given sport. So when we look through the filter of what makes a really good strength and conditioning coach, like the first thing we got to look at is, can they take someone from a young age, or a completely blank slate, and work them all the way up, to the best level in the entire world, or at least close to that elite level? Can they develop a mediocre athlete and get them to be an elite level athlete, or even just a mediocre athlete in middle school and keep them in a sport so that they're playing sports all the way through high school, and then maybe they get to college, they might go D3, D2, whatever level that they're going to, but they get the most out of them from a physical aspect, and they're also getting the most out of them, from a mental aspect, so that these athletes can actually contribute to society. But that goes back to having really, really effective strength and conditioning coaches. So we've got to make sure that we know how to motivate our athletes. We need to make sure that we have purpose with our athletes, that we can determine goal setting and have these great lines of communication. And that's going to get us right into what are those key factors really that determine a great strength and conditioning coach. That first step, I believe, is going to be all coaches have to understand those 9 key factors behind strength and conditioning, behind sports performance. And that's things like nutrition, communication. How do they lead? Communication might be, how are they actually communicating with their athletes? How are they holding their athletes accountable? How are they holding themselves accountable? Are they establishing purpose? How are they working with absolute strength? Is it a strength and conditioning coach who's only focused on absolute strength, or are they also realize, or are they just the functional crowd, right? So there's both sides. Are they into plyometrics? Do they understand reflexive strength training? Do they understand dynamic trunk control, technical coordination, nutrition and recovery? All of these things, these are part of those 9 key factors. If you guys want more information on those 9 key factors, click on the link down below. You can put in your email and you'll be part of a chain email. Every week I'm creating a coach's corner to help you guys, to help strength and conditioning coaches, to help athletes understand. You can email me questions that I will answer in video format. But now, as we continue, we have to understand even things like, does bodybuilding factor into this? What do specific aspects of mobility, what do athletes need with mobility in their specific sport? So when a coach understands all those 9 factors, now they can sit down and realize, hey, I've got to figure out how I can piece all of this together, piece this puzzle together to help my athletes have success, to help me become a better coach, to help me communicate better, to help me, create a better blueprint for success so that we can get middle schoolers to get to the collegiate level, to get to the professional level, to get to the Olympic level. We've got to be able to do that, and we have to show that. We can't just be training these freak athletes, pawn them off on Instagram, and act as though we're really good at developing normal people. We've got to prove and show out that we can develop, average people, because that's what's going to help determine what that elite strength and conditioning coach is. And that's going to take us right into differentiating sport by sport and performance that's needed, okay? So if I have a wrestler, the wrestler needs to have really good strength, really good explosive capability, really good reflexive strength. They've got to do plyometrics. They've got to do trunk work. They also have to have really good endurance. If I have a heavyweight wrestler like Nick Wazowski, in my case, who's a 2-time world bronze medalist, and I'm training him and he has endurance, but I have an athlete over here like, Sam Mattis, who got 8th at the Olympics, or I have another athlete like Nick Singleton, someone who started with me in 6th or 7th grade, and now he's a top running back in the entire country. I've got to look at all 3 of those people and realize, look, they all need some aspect of absolute strength. One of them needs a lot of endurance. One of them needs a little bit of endurance. One of them really doesn't need much endurance at all. They all need mobility work, but then we also have to analyze what type of mobility work are they going to need, where those problem areas are going to be. And so you've got to be able to differentiate those qualities sport by sport. We can't just look straight ahead and say, well, all wrestlers should train like X. And all athletes have to train like X. No, we have to be able to understand those different sports, the different rates of coordination, the speed work that's going to go into it. That's another factor with those 9 key aspects behind strength and conditioning. And so we have to understand and be able to differentiate the sport qualities from individual to individual, and then where they are, where they're lacking in regards to those sport qualities. These coaches also have to have energy and passion for developing athletes. You see strength and conditioning coaches, they suffer through training sessions, they struggle to relate to specific athletes. So it's sort of like, I'm writing this up on the whiteboard, that's what you're doing, go ahead, I'll see you later. You know, even someone like a golfer, well, I mean, really, does a golfer need strength and conditioning? But they do. It's not gonna be absolute strength work. They do need
that you had.
But golfers do need strength and conditioning. And so it's creating that passion and creating that energy to help these athletes succeed, to help them become the best versions of themselves. And that's another key factor, is that we have to have athletes become the best versions of themselves. And if we're not energetic and if we're not bringing that passion, we can't help them. These athletes don't know what their physical capability is. They don't know what their mental capability is. And so as the older individual, as a person with wisdom, as a person with experience, we've got to bring the energy, we've got to bring the passion and let them know that we believe in them. And that's a key part behind strength and conditioning coaching, is that we've got to have that energy, we've got to have that passion to help these athletes really rise to the top and become the best versions of themselves. That next key is they've got to have technical comprehension for the sport. Too often, we'll have strength and conditioning coaches, one, that have never executed a weightlifting movement. They've never done a power snatch, they've never done a power clean, and then they'll speak negatively of these movements and they don't even have technical comprehension for something that's in their direct field. Okay, so if they don't want to use weightlifting movements, fine, but go 3 or 4 blocks training in a weightlifting system, or training in a system that uses weightlifting components from a technical perspective, from a technical comprehension mindset, and then tell me that they're not worth it, okay? Do that. Don't just not do something. So you have to have technical comprehension as a strength and conditioning coach for a specific movement in the realm of strength and conditioning, but then we have to have technical comprehension for a sport. If I'm training someone on the track, if I'm training a sprinter, a 60, 100, 200 meter sprinter, I better understand how they're sprinting, what the phases of the sprint are, what the phases that they're gonna be going through. I better understand that if I'm gonna be training one. Same with football, same with I'm training a quarterback or a wide receiver. I better understand how they're running routes. I better understand I better understand how the quarterback's dropping back. I better understand how the running back's reading blocks, or even how the lineman might be reading the safeties to see what's gonna happen then up front, because they can see the safeties and then understand, okay, now the line up front's gonna be doing this stunt. I'm not saying that they have to be the best at this, but they have to have a basic understanding. Training boxers, training fighters, training wrestlers, these all have technical aspects. They have things in their sport that we can do in the weight room. Same with track and field. So we have to look at each sport, understand the technique involved, and then understand the technique aspect in the weight room, so that we have that comprehension that we can then utilize to develop a sound strength and conditioning program. Finally, we need to provide a blueprint to autonomy. One of the most important things here is that if we develop athletes over long periods of time, okay, if I have an athlete for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, one, they're gonna be really, really good, okay? And that shows with someone like Sam Matters, Haley Reichert, Nick Wisdowski, Nick Singleton, Jacob Horst, Jordan Wissinger, all these athletes that we've had here at Garage Strength, top notch, Rachel Farley, all the best, right? If you can get these athletes to be autonomous, okay, if you can provide that blueprint to autonomy and you educate them on your system and you educate them over and over again and you communicate clearly, the golden nugget here is that we want our athletes to be autonomous. And a lot of strength and conditioning coaches, myself included, we have big egos. So we want everybody to rely on us, but then when they ask questions, we get mad.
Why you have to be mad?
How dare you? You're so stupid, and I'm just as guilty, right? I can't believe that you would ask that question. But if we want to make our athletes really, really, really good, they have to be autonomous. They have to be able to go into the weight room, and if you're not there, know what they need to do and know how to push and then know when to back off. Because now they become in tune with their body and their body's adaptations. They become in tune with their mental capacity, and they can provide better feedback to you as a strength and conditioning coach. So making an athlete autonomous doesn't mean you're gonna lose them and they're just gonna do their own thing. In fact, it creates this more democratic relationship, which in turn leads to better sports performance. And then as your athletes become more autonomous and you have them over longer periods of time, and even think about if I've got athletes in high school all the way up till juniors and seniors, that they can push themselves a little bit more because I'm starting to lengthen that leash. I'm starting to let them go a little bit further. They can push themselves. They can pick the weights a little bit more. They can tell me, it's simple as, hey, do you want to go up 10 pounds or 15 pounds? That's a trick to get them to become more autonomous and realize that they can understand how their body functions. And 3-4 years later, they have really, really good input to help you create that master peak program. So we've got to have all this stuff together. And that's one of the main reasons why I put together the Coach's Corner, which again, you can click on the link down below, go to garagestrength.com, put your email address, and every Monday, I'm gonna come in your inbox with a video talking about key concepts behind strength and conditioning. And so you can email us questions. I'll respond to those questions, and it's gonna have that email every single week on a Monday with me filming myself answering your questions so I can help you guys become better strength and conditioning coaches, and you can understand what you need to do to get to the top of being the best strength and conditioning coach that you can possibly be. Until next time, guys, peace.